Hello everyone. This is Namernan reporting at a very late time at night, as you can see on my clock. But I was very busy today on the day of recording, and I just want to quickly get this video out as soon as possible so that you guys don't have to randomly just not receive a video this Saturday. But with that being said, let's take a look at this team I have here. So today we have a normal team, and this normal team brought me to this rank that you see on screen right now. It is indeed 1596, and this was a part of the low tier type challenge that I was on, and constantly trying to get to 1600 just to really prove that I could do it. Unfortunately, after I got the screenshot, I proceeded to lose 3 games in a row, and went back to 1520s, so that was brutal. But honestly, I feel like 1596 is just close enough to really drive the point home that, yeah, I was capable. I mean, I got top 100 in the ladder. It's definitely... I think the point has been made. But, yeah. Not quite 1600, but definitely close enough, in my opinion at least. So, with that being said, how did this team manage to do this? And mind you, this was also during the MRT, which is a monthly ladder tournament that goes on in the Monotype ladder. So there are people trying their best on the ladder right now, and it's arguably at its most competitive. I think the most competitive is when MLT is running, but that was not running. But this is definitely an equally, or at least slightly under equal, slightly below equal equivalent to that level of competitiveness on the ladder, which is good, because it shows that this team is very capable of doing what it needs to do to win. So, with that being said, let me just quickly do this, and we will now look at the team itself. So, as you can see, all of them are named after names of the fighting game character Sagat from Street Fighter. These are all moves that I believe he does actually have, so yeah, just take that into account. And yeah, the team name isn't really real. This team was literally just something I threw together really quickly, but for some reason, this particular team seemed to work really well. And yeah, let's just go into it. So the star of the show is Toucannon right here. So this Toucannon set is actually one you guys might have seen before if you've been watching this channel for very long. This was a set that I believe Leafy and Lol used as a... what was it? There was a Rising Set submission from Leafy and Lol. I don't believe it won, but I thought this set was very fascinating because it made Toucannon actually useful on a normal team. Now, that being said, should you just use Braviary instead? Probably. Staraptors, I would argue, is probably even better, even though Staraptor is nowhere near as good as it once was in the defensive role. But yeah, I would still say Toucannon. Toucannon has one of the best defensive moves you could ask for as a defensive flying type in Beak Blast. This burns the opponent on contact if it hits the user before it moves. And this move has negative priority. It has -3 priority, I believe. So, slower than most of the moves in the game. And with that in mind, that does mean that it also is just 100 base power with a ton of PP, mind you, for a move like this. Excuse me. So, with this in mind, you're putting this on a defensive Pokemon, so you can just burn, and basically most physical attackers in the game will probably get burned by this. And if they don't, then you can just swap to one of your teammates that can very easily handle that abuse, which we'll get into later. But yeah, Toucannon here is actually very good at handling a lot of physical attackers. And this is with the fact that I'm like slightly trolling its item, but also not slightly trolling its item, because Kustat Berry is actually suspiciously good on this mod as well, because you will very often get to 25% HP, and I mean, I got to 1596 on ladder with it, so yeah, I would say it happens consistently enough that you can do it. You can actually somewhat manage to make this set work a lot, although sometimes it does falter. a little bit. You do live on 26 or 27 HP. But most of the time you can reliably hit that threshold, and you can get a Kustat Berry Roost off, which turns you into a normal type for a little bit, which is actually good defensively, since that means you can actually afford to tank a hit that will do half the damage that it normally would if you were still a flying type. So for example, if you're against a normal team and you're up against, like, let's say, I don't know, maybe someone trying to use a ice type move to hit you, like Meowscarada for example, trying to hit you with Triple Axle, you just hit this Roost and suddenly Meowscarada can no longer kill you with that move. And it's forced to take a Beak Blast, which will end up burning it later, and even if Toucannon doesn't get to get the move off, it still burns even if it dies while using the Beak Blast. So you can leave it as a parting gift, and that parting gift is very worth it a lot of the time. Since most of these physical attackers that Toucannon likes to target are very imperative to certain teams of success, like the Meowscarada example I just gave, very important to Dark success, and if that thing gets burned, Blissey here becomes incredibly difficult for their team to deal with. Now, I think with new optimizations now, I think this Blissey set could be greatly improved, but I did use the very standard physically defensive Blissey set with Seismic Toss, Soft Boiled, and Stealth Rock. Thunder Wave just to not be useless, and yeah, this is just a fairly standard set. I actually don't think this set is that amazing, and I do have a slightly better version of this team that exists, but I just want to, but this is the preserved version that I was saving for this particular video, and I want to make sure that I kept that. So yeah, Blissey here does fulfill a very important role though in being the special sponge that works well with Toucannon. Because Toucannon handles the physical threats and whittles them down to the point where Blissey can actually start to handle them by herself. And that's very important because Blissey is one of, in my opinion, the best walls in the game when it comes to stifling and just slowly whittling down certain threats when they're weakened enough. Now, granted, it does have a weakness against ghost types, but that's most of this type anyway, and that's also why we have our next teammate, which would be Hisuian Zoroark, who I decided to run a spec set on and run Trick. So when you get higher in the ladder, Trick becomes a very important move to have, since it will catch a lot of people off guard and force them to respect sets that they otherwise wouldn't. And also, Hisuian Zoroark has a ton of teammates on this team that it could pose as, and potentially fool people into thinking that it's not Hisuian Zoroark, and then they suddenly get tricked by something like Snorlax, or something they thought to be Snorlax, and they end up losing a key defensive item on one of their defensive Pokemon, or they lose something like a berry, for example, on something like a Zoomeril, which would be really bad for them. And they're also stuck with being choice locked, which for most Pokemon that aren't ideally running a choice set is unideal. So yeah, Hisuian Zoroark, very, very solid. Well, it's not really that great of an attacker, and using this team actually really made me slightly regret using it. Because outside the trickery that it can do on draft, and it does actually, on normal specifically, I find that this mod was actually able to be kind of a nuisance when it comes to the trickery it can do with illusion. But I think that's just my team specifically. I think most normal teams probably wouldn't benefit as much as my team did, because my team just has a lot of like actually problematic things that you would not want to get fooled with. Now obviously my team also lacks Ursaluna, but I have a replacement for them being Snorlax. Now Snorlax originally, when I was running this team, did not have immunity, but over time I just kind of realized immunity's kind of broken on this mon, so I'll just take it. Since being able to have immunity basically forces Toxapex to have to spam Haze on you, and if Toxapex is forced to spam Haze on you, then that means you can probably swap something else in, like my Terrapagos or my Hisuian Zoroark. And they could just get some free progress off, or I can even swap in Blissey if I wanted to. Since Blissey does pretty well into that mon as well, due to its low HP pool. But yeah, having immunity actually makes it way easier to deal with Gliscor as well, since Gliscor really can't do much against this mon once it starts to get going. Even if it does knock off its Chesto Berry, after a couple of curse boosts, Gliscor is basically forced out. And you can just afford to rest. And once again, because Toucannon weakens most of the physical threats in the game, it's actually much easier for Snorlax to get a couple of curse boosts off and become unkillable, and come to the point where it's actually a really threatening late game cleaner. And even not in the late game, in the mid game, it's also still somewhat useful in just completely stifling opponents and just being a general nuisance as well. So the two offensive moves, and this is a big problem with Snorlax in general, but if you're not going to run Restock, you're basically forced to use Chesto Berry, so you can just have one full-time heal to get some good progress off. But I decided to go with Curse Rest and Body Slam and Heavy Slam as my moves of choice. Now, you may be thinking, why would you not go Earthquake so you can hit Steel types? I'm gonna be honest, I don't really think I want this thing in front of a Steel type anyway, because most of the Steel types in the game, for example, Archaludon, that thing is not losing to this, realistically, and it has Body Press, so it's even worse. So, yeah, I would not put Snorlax in front of Archaludon, because Archaludon will just kind of slowly beat it over time, which is not what I want to happen, so... And besides Archaludon, other Steel types, most of the other Steel types like Skarmory and Corviknight, those guys are just immune to Earthquake, so they just don't care. And even though Snorlax does have Fire Punch, Fire Punch is so weak. Like, we're talking about a 75 base power move. And even though it is going to be boosted by Curse, it's still not going to hit as hard as I need it to hit for a few Curse boosts. So, and even then, you just end up getting walled by Heatran anyway. And that's not ideal. So, yeah, with that in mind, I chose Heavy Slam, because Heavy Slam matches up very well against very common special attackers, namely fairy types like Primarina, and most notably Hatterene, who I absolutely despise, as you know. So being able to completely destroy that mon and sit on it as well while being a very big specially defensive tank is super ideal for me specifically. And that is something that Ursaluna can also do, but Ursaluna gets worn down very quickly and doesn't have the quick recovery of Rest and Chesto Berry, and also isn't immune to getting Toxic. Well, actually it kinda is, with if it has a Burn Orb, but most people actually don't run Burn Orb on Ursaluna anymore. They actually just run Guts with a regular item, from what I've seen. But even if I did choose to use the Burn Orb, it's still wearing itself down slowly, and it doesn't have any way to heal, so using it for me would just be unideal. And sadly, I don't think Ursaluna would benefit a ton from Tiger Cannon's support. Or, sorry, Toucannon's support. So, yeah. It does benefit a little bit because it's bulky, but it doesn't benefit nearly as much as Snorlax does. And Snorlax is just way scarier to deal with in the late game than Ursaluna, I believe. Now, don't get me wrong, Ursaluna, very good Pokemon, but I just felt like I could not make that mon work on this team specifically, because of how much of a momentum sink it was. Snorlax is also a momentum sink, but it's a momentum sink that can at least set up on majority of the bonds in the tier. So that is something that I enjoy about this mon. And it did do a lot of work when I was laddering, so can't complain. Ditto, we don't really have to talk about Ditto. Ditto's just a broken mon on normal, so we're gonna go straight to Terapagos. Now, I've said multiple times on this channel, how you use Terapagos determines how your team is going to function a lot on normal. So what I tried to go for was, I decided to go for a cheesy setup on Terapagos, where I would have a defensive setup that slightly outsped, I forget what these speed EVs were for. I definitely think it's for, not Azumarill, it was for, I think it was for Blissey, and a couple of other walls. They escape me right now, but yeah. It's basically for most of the super slow walls in tier. This is meant to outspeed. so you can get a rapid spin off quickly. But yeah, I just went fully physically defensive since I needed another fail-safe in case Toucannon was killed, and yeah, obviously Toucannon's going to die a lot because it is still extremely frail even with the setup I gave it. But yeah, having this as a backup is also really nice, and Terra Shell is just a very good ability to have, since it basically gives you one free hit, and it's just way stronger than you would think because unlike Multiscale, where you still take like the full brunt of the damage but it's halved, you don't take the full brunt of the damage as Terra Shift. It's automatically going to be resisted, which does half it in theory, but when it comes to 4 times, well, it wouldn't be taking 4 times effective moves, but in theory, if you did take 4 times effective moves, it would be dealing a lot less, and it also goes through multi-hit as well. So if you get hit by an Icicle Spear by Kyurem, for example, you're gonna get resisted for all 5 hits instead of just the first hit, and then the regular 4 just do the same amount of damage. Yeah, you will get resisted for all 5 hits, which is really good. Now, I decided to go for Leftovers because there's a cheesy little interaction with Terra Shift, or Terra Shell, where if you land on rocks and recover your HP back to 100%, if the move does less than 6% of your health, which this can happen by the way, you can actually activate Terra Shell again, and this is very useful against 2 specific things: pivoting and rapid spin. So if you use U-turn on this thing, on like a relatively weak U-turn, obviously not like a super strong one, but let's imagine you're using Volt Switch on Fortress, for example, because you want to get this thing away from it, because it has Flamethrower. The Volt Switch would do a little bit of damage, it would chip you out, but the Leftovers would heal you back to full. And then you'd have the Terra Shell up again for whatever threat they put in, and now suddenly you can get a Calm Mind off for free. And depending on the threat, they probably don't want to deal with you after a Calm Mind. And you're also going to have a potential speed boost with Rapid Spin as well, so suddenly you become a lot scarier than you would think. Now, granted, this is a cheesier setup. Most of the time, people will do like slightly more than the 6% damage to you. But sometimes it does proc in games, and when it does happen, it's very good. But Leftovers is also just not a bad item on Terrapagos either. It does give you that healing, and Terrapagos does lack recovery, so this isn't exactly like a bad thing to run at all, outside of that interaction. And for the record, this is also a thing that Multiscale can do as well, which is why we see a lot of fat Dragonite sets with the Thunderwave and Roost, especially in MWP and MPL. You see that set quite a few times because of that Multiscale interaction. Also paired with Roost getting rid of the flying typing as well, makes it that Dragonite can actually suspiciously take a lot of Ice type attacks, which is says a lot about how powerful that move is, or that ability is. But yeah, that is the entire team, and I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I threw this together one night when I was just trying to grind on ladder, trying to finish the low tier challenge. I was using a Psychic team before this, which I'm still not allowed to show you, sadly, but this team I am allowed to show you because I made it myself. And this team, I was just having a night one night where I was just winning a ton with this team against relatively decent players, and I was just like, I guess I should just keep going. So I kept going for a week, and I hit the peak that I showed you before, 1594. But unfortunately, I did not reach 1600. But I still got really high with this team, and I think that is, in itself, very impressive considering what this team is. Which, I personally think this team is not that amazing. Like I said, I have a better version of this team in my builder that I use occasionally from time to time. But, yeah. This is one of the main reasons why I think Blissey is just still, like, a really good mod. Because if I didn't have Blissey on this team can't work. And, I don't know. I'll have to make a video about this one day. Or about Blissey's B ranking one day. But yeah. Let's just show you some replays before we close out this video. So, obviously I had a ton of replays to show you, but I'm going to show you some of the ones that you can't just see for yourself. So, sorry for spoilers on this, but I do win this match. But yeah, we're going to lead with the Terrapagos into the Greninja. Greninja is going to use U-turn, and here we're already going to see it. The interaction, I get the Terra Shell proc, and I get a free Calm Mind, and now I have Terra Shell again, so he has to respect it. So now Terra Shell activates again. This time I get Heal Block on me, but I now get an extra Calm Mind, and Hoopa isn't going to do that much damage to me as a result, or nearly as much as they would have liked. So now that ends. Terra Starstorm. Terra Starstorm, just super strong move, 120 base power. Here comes Tingaloo. Get down Terra Starstorm off. Doesn't do as much damage to Tingaloo, but we are able to heal with our leftovers, and yeah, Tingaloo just cannot handle that damage. He's trying so hard to break through this because he knows it's a big threat. But yeah, getting to chew through Tingaloo like that for free is so massive, especially for my team, because it's really hard to deal with him otherwise. And yeah, he's forced to Sucker Punch there because I'm actually faster than him, so Sacred Sword can't actually hit me in time. The Sludge Wave barely doesn't KO because of the boosts, and yeah, that's just the leftover stiff. That's just the leftover stiff. But yeah, that's a perfect example of just that set specifically. That cheese setup just can be game breaking sometimes, because he realistically could not have put in anything that would have stopped me after the leftovers were revealed. So yeah, very brutal for him. Alright, next replay we have is against Mega Launcher. This is a relatively decent player on the ladder. So we lead with Chansey. Or we don't. I actually fooled myself. We actually lead with Tiger Shot. And I would do this a lot. I would lead with a Hisuian Zoroark instead of one of my walls, and disguise them as one of my walls. But yeah, we go into Terrapagos here because we can't afford to take it with Toucannon. Toucannon just cannot take this liquidation from Barraskewda. But even with a critical hit, we do still manage to take the liquidation, and we take another liquidation as well, and Oko with Terra Starstorm. And Mega Launcher sees this and realizes that this is not good for him, because losing Barraskewda means that he doesn't really have a big enough threat for the rest of my team. Because if he gets a kill with Quackwaffle, he's going to be in big trouble. And once again, I have Snorlax, and his team cannot break through Snorlax if I deal with his Quackwaffle. So this game is actually, he's just saving a lot of time by FFing now, because if I play this game relatively decently, which I had been playing relatively decently on the ladder, this game is completely over for him because he lost Barraskewda. Because he has nothing to break through by Snorlax. So this FF actually happens because Snorlax is in the game, by the way, which is really funny. But yeah, if I had Ursaluna, this does not happen, by the way. I would just like that to be known. But yeah, here's another MLT player. And we're up against a Dark Team. This Dark Team is not standard, for what it's worth. But yeah, we're going to have to flip turn. Samurai gets burned. He is not aware of that interaction, so yeah, we just get 22% on Tingaloo for free. Get it, knockoff as well. Oh, I forgot to mention that I have knockoff on this one. It's just full utility though. But yeah, we see Terrapagos come out now. And also, for those of you wondering, no, Ruination does not trigger Terra Shell, sadly. It goes through it. Which is normal for moves like that. So I'm not really that surprised. But yeah, we get a couple of combines there. Keep getting it. That's Terra Starstorm damage on the Tingaloo to slowly break through it. Here comes not Toucannon, but unfortunately I miss. So the surprise is revealed. The apology, but yeah, he doesn't really have anyone that can switch into Choice Specs Focus Blast anyway. So yeah, I get baited into putting in my Blissey here. So I go for the Stealth Rock when I know he's going to go for Sword Stance. I get a Lucky Paralysis, and I think this is the game where he just doesn't get to move, right? Oh no, this is not that game. So knockoff goes through. Obviously he's in big trouble because now Ditto can come in and just kind of be a big problem, right? Yes, I saw this guy's set and I was not pleased. I don't remember what it was, but I definitely was not pleased with what I saw. But yeah, Scale Shot does get the KO on me. But yeah, Roaring Moon just boosted up, and now I can just put in Ditto again. Like I said, Ditto is just such an incredible mod. Because now I can just scale shot, and I boost my speed again. So, yeah. I think the Sucker Punch... Oh no, yeah, no, Sucker Punch doesn't KO over here. It normally would, but it doesn't because I haven't burned from the beginning of the game. The Intimidate from Overquill will make it so that I have to swap out though. So I go to Snorlax, who cannot be poisoned by the Overquill. So Barbarage is permanently doing 60%. So I know this, and I just start cursing, because this guy cannot do anything to me. Unfortunately, he does have Taunt though, which is really bad. But because I got that curse up, he does significantly less damage to me. Because remember, Barbarage cannot poison me. That's the immunity diff right there. Now sadly, he does get KO'd, my Snorlax that is, so knockoff will go through, and because he used knockoff, I could just put in Ditto and not have to worry about anything. Fortunately, I do win the speed tie, and me winning the speed tie is actually very important here, because if I did not win the speed tie, I'm pretty sure I lose to Darkrai, so... Put in Toucannon, Toucannon takes an Ice Beam, put in Ditto again, and I have to pray that I hit a, Oh, he had no Focus Blast. Oh! I remember this. Yeah, this was a really brutal. Yeah, this is really brutal. I did go for the freeze. This is why you should not FF games, by the way. If you ever feel like there's just absolutely no way you could win, but there's like a small chance you could win, you always go for that chance, and this is exactly why. I had every single right to lose this game. Jojo played way better than me, right? Like, he saved his Darkrai didn't have Focus Blast, I was completely screwed. He played his cards correctly, but I just had hit a 10% chance on Ice Beam. Sometimes you just gotta go for it, man. It's better than not trying at all. But, yeah. That's what that is. But yeah, my opponent played very well this game. He definitely deserved to win. But, sadly, Pokemon is a game of chance as well as a game. So, yeah. Okay, this is a scary Salamence team. This is actually a real team. This is an MPL level team, by the way. And that's not a joke. We have seen this in high level before, so this team is not a joke. So I'm actually taking it relatively seriously. Yeah, we get poisoned, so we get the U-turn on the Corviknight. Landorus Theory comes out, so I assume that it's going to have a rock move, so I don't want Toucannon to tank that. I was correct, so I put in Terapagos, who is easily able to tank it. Corviknight comes in, and I'm actually able to get my free leftover healing and 100% HP on my Terapagos. So your turn is used again, and I get to proc Terra Shell again. Once again, this interaction, really cool. So Superpower gets used. Nemesis is going to get a slight buff. Terra Starstorm does not kill it, sadly, but it does not matter since I will not get Super KO'd by it. I probably should have gone for another Rapid Spin on that one, although it may have been a bit risky due to the defense buff, but I have Snap on it, I probably killed. But yeah, we dodge the Earthquake, and we probably go for a knockoff here, yeah. Moltres losing its heavy-duty boots. Gliscor coming in. I thought he was going to put in Gliscor here, but I just did not think he would ever risk putting in Gliscor on a knockoff, but he actually did, and I truly lost my mind when that happened, but yeah. Thankfully, the other move on my Terapagos is Flamethrower, so Corviknight still has to try and contend with that. As he U-turns again, it's a Salamence. This is defensive oh, never mind, it's Mixed Ments. I actually thought this was defensive Salamence, but no, it's actually Mixed Ments. So, Blissey comes in, and we put up Stealth Rock immediately, since I don't want Moltres to be able to play the game, especially since I was able to get its boots in the first place. So yeah, I put in my Zoroark, since we know that my Snorlax can't get poisoned. And this is where I just realized, like, Zoroark is so terrible, because this is a choice specs mod, and it's not even doing, like, over 30% to this Corviknight without a drop. Like, this is ridiculously horrible. Oh, wait, it's because I guess he must have lost his specs on. When did I do that? Wait, I must have missed the turn, because the only way I could have possibly lost my specs was that's why. I must have done that in the beginning of the game, huh? Gliscor. Because I was trying to figure out, like, wait, this is ridiculous. It should be way stronger than this. And yeah, it's supposed to be, but yeah, that's what happens when you don't have choice specs. But yeah, I actually stole his Landers to put Stealth Rock on the field. I love this game sometimes. I love Ditto. Ditto is just such a fun mod. Actually, Ditto by itself actually just makes Normal so worth playing. Because the amount of nonsense you can do with this mod is just ridiculous. But yeah, as you can see, I'm actually slowly, like, chipping his team down. Because he has to constantly be afraid of the Toucannon burning his bonds. And here comes Toucannon again. Like, I know this is Big Spence, but I'm just like, yeah. I was like fine with him losing 2 special attack because I knew that that meant he can't boost up. So then Gliscor comes in again, and I just start cursing because this guy can't do anything to me, right? So he has no Toxic Orb, he has no healing, and I knew he was going to use Taunt, so yeah, I just took the Body Slams and I just got rid of Gliscor. Gliscor, once again, that's one of the reasons why I use Hisuian Zoroark with Trick, is so you can get mods like Gliscor. Body Slam gets used, and sadly, Flame Body still does work on my Snorlax, and Snorlax is slow as hell, so he's going to get affected by that. Do I still have my Chestnut Berry? I do still have my Chestnut Berry, so we'll full heal. Well, this gets used, that's kind of unlucky for me. But yeah. I just keep cursing up. Now Loki, I think I sleep here, right? No, I kept cursing. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for max boost here since I'm pretty sure I'm not killable if I reach this point. And then I just rest chest all the way up. Yeah, Corviknight's gonna get paralyzed a couple times, but these paras don't really matter that much since I was just gonna curse up anyway in front of him. If anything, it just saves me a little bit of time, but yeah. He does have the double Intimidate, which makes it a bit easier for him to play around my Snorlax. So Snorlax isn't as much of a threat as it could be. Like, look, because I'm asleep, he's able to take advantage of the double Intimidate. And he could have swapped in again and just got rid of my attack boost completely, but yeah, he ended up not doing that. So I keep going for Body Slams. Obviously I'm going for Body Slams because I want to get the paralysis chance. But yeah, I just end up resting again because I don't want to be burnt. But yeah, I'm going to lose all of my attack. And yeah, this is going to be a pretty slow game. It's very hard for him to break through my Snorlax, though. As you can clearly see. Like, he can weaken the Snorlax, but he's not breaking through it, which is the main thing. And there you go, the paralysis on Moltres, which is what I was looking for the entire time. So I have 4 times defense. Literally nothing on his team can KO me. Or KO the Snorlax. So I'm just, like, slowly PP stalling him this entire time. Now, I'm still losing this, for the most part. I'm absolutely losing this interaction. But what Snorlax doing this does is it stalls out the game and allows me to spread paralysis against this entire team, which makes it so that plays are a lot less safe for him. So yeah, Landorus just gets paralyzed there as well, and takes a hefty chunk. So if he can, like, clicking U-turn is no longer free, because if he gets paralyzed, it could put him in a really bad situation. So yeah. And yeah, resting saves me like 2 PP every turn that I use it. Sadly, rest is nerfed in this game, so it is going to have only 8 uses. But yeah. And here comes the unfortunate paralysis, but this is exactly what I was playing for. I still get burned. But yeah. You just have to play to your best win condition of Pokemon sometimes, even if it's scummy, you gotta do it. That's just how the game is. But yeah, the double Intimidate, we keep going for it. If he didn't have double Intimidate, by the way, this is why I'm saying the Salamence team is actually good, because the double Intimidate, even if he had like Gyarados or something, that actually makes a big difference. So the Salamence is not trolling by any means. So like it is doing a lot of work in this game as much as my Snorlax is. Very funny because both of these teams are like look completely insane if you look at the viability rankings, but no, both of these mods just have their place in the metagame, and we're just showcasing it right now. Yeah, this game is very slow. I do remember this. So we'll skip a couple of turns just so you aren't like super bored, but yeah. The idea here is that I'm just slowly body slamming and slowly whittling down his PP. I'm losing curses though, so I'm trying to reserve them as much as possible, but yeah. There's my rest. Guaranteed 2 turns. And if we look at this, he has 4 roosts left. He has like, that guy's like fine actually. But yeah, Blissey is now like a big threat now since his team is getting worn down. And getting paralyzed in front of Blissey might be one of the worst things ever if you're a wall, because you don't know if you're going to get to move the next turn, and you're going to lose like a good chunk of your health because of it. So yeah, Blissey like has this guy on lock because yeah, if that happens again, that's really bad for him. Well, Corviknight has a ton of HP, so it seems to be relatively fine in this situation. But yeah, the Stealth Rock will go through again. Wrist gets used again. Slice the toss. Defog. Just gonna keep seeing this cycle keep going through until I get a lucky paralysis. That'll eventually, and he's still losing wrist PP this entire time as well, so he has to worry about that. My Cyclone Toss is getting worn down though because of pressure. But yeah. Oh, and also Defog just isn't working anymore because my oh no, I think actually it's still working. I think it does still get rid of the yeah, it does still get rid of the rocks even if I'm minus evasion. But yeah, there's the paralysis, there's the scary paralysis. And there's the double, and yeah, that's just what you have to do sometimes. I got super lucky. I finally got it on the last 2 that I needed for my Seismic Tosses to actually kill the Corviknight. But sadly, Salamence is going to come in. Blissey is still in a pretty good spot though, has a ton of soft boiled juices. And now the paralysis is on Salamence too, so now his entire team is paralyzed. So he's like constantly like stressing about every single move, and like this is the value of paralysis right here. The yellow magic is so broken on the psyche of a Pokemon player because they just have no idea if they're going to be able to move or not. Yeah, we're going to see Snorlax come out again. Landorus is going to get KO'd, which means one of the Intimidators is down. So I could use a curse here, and I could actually like somewhat keep it up. But yeah, sadly, ooh, and that crit actually did matter. I did count that later, and that shit did matter. So yeah, that was definitely a certified war crime moment because that body slam crit did absolutely matter. Even if it hadn't happened though, I had Hisuian Zoroark in the back that could just use a Shadow Ball at any time and just kind of kill the Corviknight. Corviknight had 1 roost use left anyway, so he was not going to. They were not going to stay alive for a lot longer. And if worst came to worst, Ditto could just stall out the game as well. Just constantly coming in and taking turns with Blissey, just recovering HP, doing all that. This game could have gone a lot longer, which is really funny if you consider the teams that are being used, but yeah, it could have gone a lot longer. But yeah, thankfully the hacks did speed up that process. Anyway, yeah, that is a proper showcase of the team. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I haven't made a video like this in a while since it was tournament season, but I will be making a couple more of these as well. There are a couple of other types that I'm trying to work with right now, and I'm also trying to see if there are any different types of challenge videos I can try and do to do that, but just expect a bit of variety content for now, relative to the SV metagame, of course, but yeah, I'm going to be doing a couple of variety videos now. Might cover any individual tournament games that I think look interesting, and any potential metagame discoveries, but yeah, for the time being, videos like this is probably what you're gonna see. But yeah, with that, I will officially end my low tier type challenge, and now I'm finally free to use any type I want. And believe me, I have seen some stuff that I've really been wanting to cook lately on the higher tier types. For example, I really want to use a Hisuian, or not Hisuian, but Overquill in general on Dark, because I think there's a slight potential for some hyper offense Dark with Overquill, kind of like a Crocodile of hyper offense Dark in the past. But Overquill is slightly better than Crocodile because of its access to a poisoning move, as well as toxic spikes, on top of the spikes that it already has. So, yeah, I'm really interested to try out new stuff on the better types. But yeah, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you next week. Take care.